Ah, g'day. Let's talk about documentaries. Across the Ocean in a Work Week is a predominantly expository and partly observational documentary showcasing the world record holding transatlantic crossing by a monohull boat. This documentary will be critically analysed to demonstrate how these particular modes of documentary filmmaking can inform content and artistic style. But first, let's discuss the current climate of documentary filmmaking. For nearly a century, documentary filmmaking has informed, revealed, and exposed truth and actuality to its willing audiences. John Grierson founded the term documentary, describing the art form as a creative treatment of actuality. In a contemporary context, however, one can only wonder if this definition remains relevant. There is a shared opinion in the academic community that this definition is at best adolescent. Winston is a clear example of this, stating, "The supposition that any actuality is left after creative treatment is at best naive and at worst a mark of duplicity." The scholarly debate around the definition of documentary filmmaking highlights a critical issue with the art form: the balance between representation and reality. Aufderheide demonstrates the prevalence of this issue when commenting that documentaries always have two crucial elements in tension, these being representation and reality. Bruzy goes further, arguing that documentary filmmakers, like any communicator across any platform, make endless choices. These choices are representative of their point of view, whether they are aware or not. Documentaries all fall under a different category or mode. As stated by Nichols, these modes establish a loose framework of affiliation within which individuals may work. They set up conventions that a filmmaker may adopt, and they provide specific expectations viewers expect having fulfilled. However, these modes are not kept separate, as films usually mix different modes, although one will normally be dominant. The expository mode is by far the dominant style of filmmaking in Across the Ocean in a Work Week. The film, however, borrows conventions from the observational mode of documentary as the journey across the Atlantic is captured. Expository documentaries use third-person narration and interviews to address the audience directly and propose a perspective, advance an argument, or in the case of Across the Ocean in a Work Week, recount history. Observational documentaries observe aspects of the historical world as they happen. As such, one could argue that observational conventions are used during the record-breaking journey coverage. However, this is clearly not the dominant mode of the documentary, as previously mentioned, due to the prevalence of third-person narration and interviews. Additionally, the observational mode of documentary typically has no voiceover, no supplementary music or sound, no behavior repeated for the camera, and no interviews. Therefore, despite the existence of observational documentary filmmaking methods, Across the Ocean in a Work Week cannot be defined as an observational documentary. In the early stages of the film, the creator puts a great deal of effort into describing the enormity of the task ahead of the crew. This is done with comprehensive interviews of many involved in the voyage and third-person narration. The viewer gains a privileged insight into the way a monohull crew of this size operates, the dangers they may potentially face with the weather, and the level of care and cost that went into designing their monohull, the Comanche. During the voyage, the film then takes on an observational mode of filming, with the filmmakers not present during any of the shots. According to Bill Nichols, criticism of the observational style is that discomfort from the viewer can arise when one is observing from a privileged position, where there is a pleasure in viewing rather than interacting. For Across the Ocean in a Work Week, this is not the case, as at this point, however, the two styles now overlap, with retrospective commentary working in harmony with the voyage footage, preventing the audience from feeling like they have an insight into a world they are not meant to. The filmmaker selects dull and dreary colours during the voyage, in stark contrast to the powerfully colourful imagery when showcasing the Comanche before departure. This style of imagery reflects the gritty, enormous task that they are undertaking, and complements the earlier work of the filmmaker when trying to impress upon the enormity of the voyage to the audience during the early stages of the documentary. To summarize, Across the Ocean in a Work Week is an expository documentary which uses some conventions from the observational mode. Any criticisms, such as those described by Nichols, of the observational style are rendered when the two modes overlap and the observational filming is paired with third-person narration and retrospective interviews. Therefore, it is clear that the modes of documentary filmmaking have informed style and content of Across the Ocean in a Work Week. Thank you.